Sometimes what I do, I found it to be very effective therapy, self-therapy, right? Self-healing, self-care, self-love. About when you experience the eternal spirit of fire in you, right? Being the seed and the grower as one, fully integrated, doing a dance, right? And so sometimes what I'll do is when there's a lot that I experience, it's related to other things that I experience. It might have some communication value. I start writing it down because if I don't, it's gone. It will never come back to me the same way that I experienced it. It's a completion of a magnetic circuit, experiencing the present moment of pure, absolute, eternal love, right? And so when I become aware of what others are now communicating through the server, if you will, like for example, Rattle Trap 776. And there's the visual image, which is the map read of the mathematics, the codes, right? Signals. And it said, God's children are not for sale. And I'm going, yeah, I experienced that. I put that up on my Facebook page a long time ago, right? Which means energy is not for sale. Creation energy is not for sale. Creation energy is always on fire, giving away energy. Okay, so we can translate it in a cellular way that way also between seeded races, seeders and growers. So I wrote this down, so I'll just put it in there, right? You can read that. So I'll go through it. How elements react. How elements react to cellular magnetic circuits of fire letter C3 space, C space communication. Yeah, and so this can also apply to what we call victim-victimizer software, which means now that you become aware of what I'm aware of, by virtue of you becoming aware of what I experienced, you're experiencing the reaction state in me based on elemental communication that now you're experiencing in you. So now we're in the reaction states, right? Between communicators, communicating through cells, through factor light antennas, through a network. Now it's your fault. See, now we're back with the way the AI operates. Remember with Neo and Mr. Smith? Mr. Smith programs the application of consciousness to run the program, to run the elementals. Circuits, circuit communication, right? Between templates, between spirits in the molecule, spirits in the energy. And when Mr. Smith said to Neo, we seem to have a connection with each other. Like you came first, Neo. You're the one, right? So you're the first cell, the first silver-seeded atom cell. You know what it means to seed a cloud, so we experience rain. Like raw in. Oh, the N. Yeah, the inner work. The inner us. You as in S, like an S spiral. And so we have fun with this kind of stuff, yeah? Because laughter is medicine, right? Even though when we experience everything that's being recorded, by virtue of the cells that we're sensing, what we're experiencing through all the cells that are sensing through all the antennas, what it means to be fully censored, not censored like they, not Nazi book burners. No, we're experiencing all the records that are being recorded at the time in which they're being recorded, which is the time at which the cells are experiencing the time wave density speed between lines of communication, right, of cells, cellular communication. So I was listening to a little bit of a video put out by the blessed folks, the monastics. You know what a monastic is, right? Mono, like in mono stereo. How we define the DNA language of electrical sound and light magicians through CDT, tectonic plate, hypersensitive seed plate, right in our own script, right? Like HTTP. A disface translation of mathematical coded holographic character map symbols. Now we're into signs and symbols. Remember the movie Signs? Signs and symptoms, like in Soma, like in Sonata. Musical spheres, the spirit in the spheres. So how we communicate being whole, pi again. Recovery is resurrection of our spirit of fire, starfire burst. 13th transharmonic. So before I wrote that, I wrote this down. As a young boy growing up in the 1950s in California, I used silent golden green emerald fire and pink rose signet language. So I didn't have to communicate ions, a verbal sound microphone, S-voice print box to another antenna receptor. That means I don't have to verbalize anything. You got the message, right? Which means that the communication of the ions, a verbal sound microphone, S-voice print box to another antenna receptor, they translated the signal and left me alone without saying a word. Right? Remember sign language? The art of navigating through a consciousness field. So now we're into the ArcGate hub server. So the ArcGate hub server, C3 space time speed waves of circadian waveform band frequency rhythm, frequency modulation. The rhythm of the spirits dancing in the circles of starfire, light spheres of alternating negative ion and positive ion electrical currents between past, present, and future create a potential to experience 100% capacitor levels of pure, eternal, absolute love that's on fire to create with every breath, breathing with the first son of love's children, the children born out of pure love, the first son, soon, the children of the sun, the children of the first sun, the children of the first breath of a breathing spirit in the sun, in the sphere, the first sphere. So then I wrote down non-polarized spirit, neutral position, or the safe zone, which is a non-reactive zone, which is a non-reactive state, breathing spirits, direct current, AC, reactive states between pole arcing opposites, equal sharing to maintain perfect equal states of mass balance between log scale vector space arcs, experiencing the law of least effort to experience the first spark of sound and light joined as one cell as the first engineer of creation spheres. So Plum Village monastics, like spiritual learning gymnastics of flow DNA grams, the weight of the wave of communication frequency modulation spheres, how the the go line, like the go road down by the redwoods near, where is that? The Smith River, how the ego emerald golden fire operates, flooding Tara with electrons, electromagnetic isotopes, ISO, nuclear cellular power of molecular mathematical consciousness, formations, for matter, formatting the landscape, formatting the holographic architecture, formatting the matter state codes of our holographic end user frame rate window, eyes 3, speed, breathing, present moment, magnetic circuits. So we're map reading the field, the consciousness field, navigating through the consciousness field with a gyrodome, a monopole gyrodome. Yeah, the first pillar, the first temple. So now we're into the first template codes, which would be the first mathematical assembly codes of arcing biotech engineers, are temple makers, which are template makers, like in arcing techs, like an architect that uses the templates, right? So you have temple makers, which are star system developers, as map reading, what we are both held captive by in the unconscious sleeper cell. Gotta wake those cells up. The unconscious sleeper cells, universal, galactic, and seeded race lines, memory banks. arcing 12 rainbow disc phase spheres of total recall. How the elements communicate in spiral form and flow of first breath of living soul arcing spirit, of first internal, eternal, absolute, pure love for all creation life forms. And we experience and record that experience from which we learn as feedback. The mirror that we're operating. Yeah. And so sometimes when I see certain words, when they're put up on how we define the letters, right, the fire letters, the nuclear sequence, using our nuclear power plant to communicate, right, the language that we're using, because you realize how it works when you can rearrange the deck charts with the letters as they're sequenced and how we communicate what those letters mean, right? So I remember, for example, one time when the Voyager materials talked about Christos, and they made it very simple to define. We're not talking about, like, how are you going to define Christ? Is it with a K? Is it with a C? Because that matters as a symbol, right? In alchemy. So if we define a Christos as a group, a formation of consciousness, and then I go watch what an indigo Christo does, right? Then I realize when they're talking about what it is we're able to do, right? We're all able to do together because we're one, which means there isn't any separation from what you are and what I am, of what we're all giving love to in our mirror. From the single point of observation, the first sun observing the all creation, experiencing pure absolute love for all the creations that came about as a result of creation energy that's on fire to create. So now we're into the purity, right? The purity of the fire, the purity of our spirits, freeing all the elementals, because holding a unit of consciousness captive means we're holding ourselves captive, because it means that electron, instead of letting it go to increase the speed to heal ourselves, instead it's going to take longer until we let go, which is called surrender, which is called resurrection. Resurrecting the full body, the light body, the light spirit body, the radio, the spirit in the radio wave, right? So what I have to do since I was a child is I have to filter all this, because I realized when I was a child and I had this up and running, anything less than what pure love is, the founder's mathematical codes when it comes to torque conversion, because we're speaking in the language of Babel, the reversal speed stuff, yeah. Okay, I keep it really simple. And that is anything that is less than what the purest of love is, okay, it gets transmuted automatically. Right? Because that's what I experience. So if I'm experiencing anything less than what that is, when you have full elemental command in which to transmute it, it gets transmuted. Because the full elemental command authority of manifesting what it is we experience in our mirror is based on the capacity level in which to experience pure 100%, pure, absolute, eternal love. Which means that what it is that you're using your energy for is naturally not going to do any harm. Naturally not going to do any harm. Which means you don't even have to think about whether or not you're doing any harm. You're naturally not doing any harm, which is known as the natural spiritual form and flow of the original celestial creation mechanics. Yeah. Yeah, the rainbow spheres. Spheres of pure love that's on fire to create, using all the colors. You got all the colors are available, right? What do you want to experience next? The auroras. The auroras, the rainbow auroras, right? So I wanted to share that this morning because I know that how when we communicate with each other with a similar language that's been programmed into our memory that we use to communicate with others, sometimes it's important for me to remember from a neutral point of view, when you're experiencing the purest of absolute love in your heart while you're here to begin with, right? Which means it's not a secret. Secret code signs, and map reading the identities by virtue of the codes, the signets, how we communicate with one another, right? And so when you are experiencing being fully integrated, all hierarchies disappear. They're gone. Absolutely gone. Because now you're experiencing the purity of of what I call first love, the first lover, which is an eternal love experience. I'm experiencing the purest of absolute love that's on fire to give love away. And when you get into the healing side of this, then you realize why we're here, which is heal everything. Right? So as I mentioned this to Karen, this isn't just about people that you see on the visible light spectrum that look like they're human because they have a head, 2 arms, 5 fingers on each hand, and toes. Oh, no. No, no, no. We're talking about every living cellular organism that ever experienced any trauma, ever. That's cosmic level spirit. Right? Which would be, if you will, every living cell. Every living cell that is self-aware, that has ever experienced any trauma. Right? Because it began with the first cell. And the first cell is experiencing itself as eternal, absolute, pure love. That is knowing one.